You, sir. Okay. So before lunch break, we were discussing regarding the servlet programming, right? We have seen that how we can communicate in between the servlet parts. So let's just go ahead with the servlet thing. Let me share my screen. I hope my screen is visible. So before the lunch break, we have seen the login module, right? So in that, what we have done is simply we taken the input from the user, that name and the password, right? Whenever the user click on the login, we are validating it, and uh, if the user enters the correct information, so we are redirecting on a
Excuse
welcome
me.
page. Yes,
The screen is not visible, ma'am.
screen is not visible. Okay, let me just share it again. Yes, is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay, thank you so much, sir. Yes, so before the lunch break, we have seen that how we can use the response.send direct method to just redirect on a welcome page, right? From one servlet page to another page. But some of the cases, what we can do is we can also add some error message within this login page only. If the user has not registered, then we can start and we can do the kindly do the register yourself, right? So if we want to showcase such message within the already existing page only, right? So how we can do that? So for that, the method which we can use, the concept which we can use, the interface, that is called as the request dispatcher, right? So now what we are going to do is in the login, we will check, validate whether it is correct or not. If yes, if correct, then we will redirect on a welcome page. Otherwise, if not, then we will include, or you can say we will add the error message in the already existing login page, right? So for that, the interface we will use, that will be the request dispatcher. So let's just see what type of code we need to do for that. So for that, we have already created the login page. From the login page, we are already going to the validate page. Now, in the validate page, instead of response.redirect, we should use over here request dispatcher. We need to use request dispatcher. Okay, so request dispatcher is the interface. So we just need to create an object of this particular interface. So let's say I'm providing the object as RD, request dispatcher RD is equals to request dot, where to call get request dispatcher method. Get request dispatcher method so that we can redirect on a welcome page. Okay, so this is the thing. Now here you can see we got the error. So here we just need to import the request dispatcher class package. So I have imported it. Now, as we have created the object for redirecting, we have over here, we have just mentioned that we want to redirect on a welcome page. But for redirecting, we need to use redirect or forward method. So for calling the forward method, we'll use the object RD and we'll use forward. So automatically it will forward our request and response on a welcome page. Same thing we need to do over here, right? Same thing we need to do over here. We need to mention the same thing. We need to call the request dispatcher. We need to create the object. But instead of welcome, over here, we need to mention login.html because we want to include this error message. Error message we have mentioned that please do registration, right? So that message, if you want to showcase on a login page, so you can, or otherwise you can mention the error message that incorrect credentials, right? And then as we want to include the message over here, the method we will call that is the include method. Okay, now I will save this and let's just run this project. We'll select the project, do the right click, run as, run on the server. So here, whenever we will run this, so our landing page is our registration page, right? So it will open the registration module. Here I will click on register, so it will redirect on a login module. In a login, if you are entering any wrong name, right? If you are entering any wrong name and password, and if you will click on login, so within the same page, you can see incorrect credentials are coming, right? And if you will pass the correct information, then it will redirect on a welcome page. So this is how the request dispatcher method works basically. I hope the use of the request dispatcher is clear to you now. Is there any doubt in this? Shall we go ahead? Yes. Okay. Okay. So now what we are going to do is, as we have not yet integrated the database part, right? So now we will try to integrate the database part with our servlet program. But before that, we should aware of the database, right? So let's just quickly cover the theory part. I'm definitely sure that you guys are already aware of these concepts, but we are just quickly within 10-15 minutes, we are just going to quickly review the all the concepts, right? So let's just understand first of all the database management system, and then we'll continue with the database connectivity part. Right. So in database management system, what is this basically database management system? DBMS is all about. So it is nothing else but one kind of a software you can consider, which we generally use to manage the databases. Right. Database is nothing else but the collection of the information or collection of the data, you can say. That data can be relational, non-relational. That depends. And based on the type of the data, you can divide or you can distribute the database in a two categories, that is relational database and non-relational database, right? So basically DBMS is mainly used to provide us an interface where we can perform the operations on a database, like we can create the database, we can store the data into it, we can retrieve the data, we can delete the data, we can update the data, all the actions we can perform on a data, right? But why this particular system requires? So as you are aware that earlier when this system, the software was not there, manually we need to maintain the things. We were maintaining the things, maintaining the records, informations using pen and paper, right? We were maintaining the files after the computer system, right? So in that what happens, it was very difficult to handle very large amount of record, right? So that is one of the reason. Other thing is, if we want to find out a particular data information, then manually we need to search for it, and it is very difficult to find particular data from lots of data, right? So it was very difficult to search a particular data, right? So to overcome such type of problems, this database management system come to the picture, and because of that, now we are able to easily update, create, delete, search, retrieve the data, right? So as I said, there are two types of databases, but in today's session, we are going to focus on only the relational databases. Now, what we say as a relational database, so the data which are stored, which is having some relation in between, those type of databases are called as the relational database. And for showcasing the relation between the data, we use the tabular format, right? So you can see this is a one type of a table which is made up of columns and the rows, right? In the column, whatever the things you have mentioned, the name, dry or wet food, good boy, these are the fields you can say. These are the fields. And these fields are used to represent the relations. That if the name is Fido and the this particular boy is eating the dry food, so he is a good boy. So each and sorry, whatever the data, whatever the details we have entered, that depends on each other. That is why this data, this table is called as the relational database, right? So here always these rows are mainly used to represent the data, the actual information, while the columns are the used to create the structure of your table, right? So before we understand or before we do any hands-on part on the database, you should be aware of some of the terminologies, right? First is the database. So can anyone tell me what do you mean by database or a schema? Any guesses? What do you think? What we say as a database or schema? Yes, anyone? What do you mean by database or schema? Schema is a structure. Okay, very good. Schema is database structural view. Yes, absolutely correct. Right. So basically, schema database is nothing else, but it is a structure you can say. That means for a particular project, for one project, there will be the one schema. There will be the one database. Right. So what does that mean? So basically, it will have all the information, all the data. That means whatever the number of tables you have created, that will be there, right? So everything will be there within that particular database. So it you can consider collection of tables which is used to create the structure of your project, of your particular details, right? Now, table is one of the entity of your database, right? So what do you mean by table? Table is nothing else but the uh, tabular structure where we store the data, right? And which is made up of rows and columns. As I already said, that rows are used to represent the original data, the information, the content, while column is nothing else but the fields, right? Through which we are forming the table. Now the other terms are primary key. So can anyone tell me what do you mean by primary key? Yes, anyone? What do you mean by primary key?
Ma'am, primary key is used to identify your data uniquely in the table.
Yes, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct, ma'am. So primary key is mainly used to identify your data uniquely in the table. That means uh, if let's say in my table I have 100 entries, you can consider the example of students. right? At your institute, there are so many students, right? So how you are able to identify the students? Through their enrollment number, through their ID number. Similarly, this primary key act as the ID for the individual records. So if you want to find out a particular record, if you want to uniquely identify a record, you need to use the primary key. So there are mainly two characteristics of primary key. It must be the value of your primary key must be the unique, and it must be not null, right? If it is fulfilling both the criteria, then that field, that column, you can make as a primary key for that particular table. And what do you mean by foreign key? What do you mean by foreign key?
For ma'am, foreign key is a primary key of another table, but it is used as a reference attribute
Yes.
in another table.
Yes, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct, Chetna ma'am. Thank you so much. Yes. So as ma'am has said that foreign key is nothing else, but it is the primary key. It is a primary key of other table, but that we are keeping in our table for the reference purpose. That means if you want to link two tables, then you can use the primary key of the other table into your table, right? If anyone is coming outside of India, so what we are saying, he is a foreigner, right? In the same way, this particular field, this particular key is a part of any other table. That is why the name is given as a foreign key, right? Okay. Now next is the constraint. So can anyone tell me what do you mean by constraint? Yes, anyone? What is constraint? Condition applied. Yes, absolutely correct. So basically, if you want to add some condition like check, right? Check is a one type of a constraint, right? So in that, what we are doing? So in that, we are just checking that whether whatever the detail is entered is proper or not, right? Then there is a default constraint. So in a default constraint, what we do? So by default, if no entry is made by the user for a particular cell, then by default value which we want to set for that cell, that we can set. So that is for the condition check, that whether this condition is satisfied or not. If it is satisfied, then it will act certain things, and if it is not satisfied, it will act for the certain things, right? So that is something else but the constraint. And lastly, last is the query. So what do you mean by query? What is query? What do you mean by query? Question asked. Yes, you can say like that. That means whatever the operation you want to perform on your table, on your database, that operation in whatever the manner you are asking, you are informing, whatever the command you are giving, that command is called as a query in the database, right? So that are the terminologies which you should be aware of whenever you work with the database, right? So in our case, we are going to use MySQL, right? Why we are utilizing MySQL? What is MySQL? So basically, the one of the reason is it is open source, right? That is why we are utilizing MySQL for learning the database management system. Another reason is it supports the multiple languages, right? And multiple operating systems, right? As we are developing Java based application and MySQL supports Java. So that is why we have selected this MySQL, which is the mostly used relational database tool, right? It supports the large data and everything, right? And the another important reason, it is customizable. Now, what I mean by customizable, because it is a open source, whenever you will try to install this MySQL in your system, you can select the products based on your requirement. It is not compulsory to download and install each and everything which is there in the package. No, whatever the things required in as per your condition, as per your project need, you can only download and you can only install those things in your system. So by customizing the things, you can be able to save the space which is going to be occupied by MySQL in your system, right? So this is why we use MySQL. And other than that, the other benefits, as all majority of the databases have, that flexible, easy to use, high performance, mature DBMS, secure database, free installation, and very simple syntax. Because of these reasons, we generally use MySQL, right? So whenever we are talking regarding MySQL, that means the queries, whichever we will try to insert, those queries, that commands are divided into mainly 4 categories, right? So today we will see this query, how we can be able to perform in the MySQL workbench. So instead of talking these queries on a theoretical basis, I would like to use this query on a MySQL so that we can see the things by doing the hands-on. So now I will switch to the hands-on part and will just move and I will open my SQL workbench, which I have already installed in my system, right? So how you can install MySQL in your system? For that, I have already created one video. So that video I will share with you on a WhatsApp. So you can watch that video and you can install this particular thing in your system as well. Because I have installed by customizing MySQL, right? So I will share that video with you and you can watch that video so that you will also understand that how you can install it. So whenever you will install it, after that, you need to open MySQL Workbench. Whenever you will open it, it will look like this. Okay. So why we are saying MySQL is a secure? Because it provides authentication. Whenever you will try to access your database, first of all, you need to prove that you are the authorized person and you can access the data. And how you can prove that? So for that, it will ask you to enter the password. You can see this is my local instance, right? So I will click on this local instance. Whenever you will click on it, it will ask you to enter the password. So when you can set your password, during the installation time only you can set your password. Okay, so in my case, I have already set my password as admin. So I have entered my password and then we will be able to see this MySQL Workbench IDE. Right? You can see over here. So as you can see, basically, this is how your tool will look like, your MySQL will look like. So let me just make you familiar with this particular thing. So here in the left hand side, you will be able to see the schemas. That means whatever the databases you have created, all those databases will be listed over here, right? You can see I have created demo, FDP, taste1, taste2. There are so many, and SYS. In your case also, the SYS is the system database. So that will be by default created. Okay, so whenever you will install MySQL, automatically the sys database will be already there, right? You can see now below this schema part, that is the information of your object. So right now, as you have not selected any object, that is why it is not showcasing anything. If you will select the object, you can see the schema name is test2, right? If you will select the table, then it will provide you the table structure, that in this table, the two columns are there, faculty name and password, and the data type which is assigned to these fields are varchar 45, right? So here you will be able to see this object information, and just beside this object information, there is the session information. Now, what does the session information? So whenever you need to create the database connectivity with your Eclipse IDE, at that time, this information you need to provide. That what is the name of this MySQL instance, that is localhost, which port number it used, 3306, right? So this information you need to provide whenever we will do the database connectivity. Now in the below part, you can see this is the output window. So here, whatever the query we will execute, whether it is successfully executed or not, that information will be provided over here in this output window. This particular window is just used to provide you the syntax information. So if you don't remember any syntax or anything, then you can take the help from here, right? And this middle window is the place where you will be able to write your queries and you will be performing the things. The another beauty of this MySQL Workbench is that it provides you the GUI. The other databases does not provide you any GUI interface, right? But this MySQL provides you the GUI. That means graphical user interface. So by that is not compulsory to write the queries for performing certain things, right? You can be able to click on certain things and it will pop up the window. You can fill up the details and the things will get done, right? So it is not compulsory to write the queries every time. So how we can use it, how we can use the GUI, because I'm sure that you are already teaching DBMS to your students. So you are a bit aware of the syntax part, right? So we will quickly try to cover this and then we'll move for the database connectivity. Okay, so here, this is the fourth icon that you can see, that is for creating a new schema. If you will click on that fourth item, it will open this window and it will ask you to give the name to the name to your database, right? So here, let's say I'm giving database name as FDP1, okay, and I will click on apply. You can see automatically the query syntax is written, create schema, and then the schema name. If you will click on apply, you can see executing SQL command successfully applied. You can click on a finish. In the output portion, you can see successfully executed, right? And if you will see in this left hand side schema part, so you can see FDP1 schema is created. Right. So this is how you can create a database. Now, what other thing you can do after creating a database, you need to create a table, right? So how you can create a table? For that, go to your database, go to the table, do the right click and create table, right? Here you just need to provide name of the table. Let's say I'm creating a table as, let's say, faculty. I will just click on this arrow so that we can add on the column details more properly. You can see over here, you can enter the column name, right? Then whatever the data type you want to set for that particular cell, for that particular column, that you can set. And after that, you can see there are so many options available. So let's just understand the options first. First is PK. So this PK stands for the primary key. So if you want to set any particular field, any particular column as a primary key, so you just need to check this checkbox. Next option is NN. NN stands for not null. That means if you want that for that particular column, any cell should not be the null. User cannot be make that cell empty. So for that purpose, you can check this checkbox. Next is UQ. UQ stands for the unique. That means if you want that whatever the data is entered by the client within that column, all the data must be the unique only. So you can check this checkbox. Next is binary. So if you want that user must enter the binary data, so you can select the binary. Then UN stands for unsigned. So as you are already aware that whenever we are dealing with the integer or float, so in that we have two types, right? Signed and unsigned. So if it is signed, that means we can enter positive and negative both the values, right? But if you want that only positive values should be there, then you can check this checkbox for the unsigned, right? Next is ZF. ZF stands for zero fill. That means if by default nothing is entered over there, and if you want to by default fill 0 in that cell, so you can check this checkbox. Next is AI. AI stands for auto increment, right? So if you want that numbers are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 only, so you can, instead of entering it manually, you can make it as a auto increment. And last is G. G stands for generated. Now, what does this generated mean? So you can see there is one column provided over here, one cell provided here, that is expression default, right? So you can provide the expression over here, and based on that expression, if you want that the value should be generated, so you can check the generated checkbox. So based on whatever the expression you will mention over here, as per that the data will be entered, right? So this is what the different fields provided. So based on your requirement and based on your need, you can select whatever the things you want, right? So here what we will do, we will just add the column name. Let's say faculty underscore ID. So ID is obviously integer, primary key, not null, and I will make it as a auto increment, right? Then next, let's say we are having faculty name. That will be varchar. Let's just make it as a not null. Let's say another I'm making as a faculty department, right? So that will be also, let's say, varchar. And lastly, we are adding, let's say, faculty salary. That should be in a integer, right? And it should not be the null, right? So these 4 fields we have added, and then you just need to click on the apply. Okay. Whenever you will click on apply, automatically the create table query will be there, right? Create table, database name, dot the table name, then whatever the fields and its data type and everything, and then whatever the primary key is there. Everything is mentioned. You just need to click on apply, right? Whenever you will click on apply, statement will execute and it will showcase you successfully applied. You can click on finish. You can see the green symbol. That means the table is created. You can also check over here whether the table is created or not. In FDP1 database, within the table tab, you can see faculty table is created. Right? If you will select it, if you will go in object info, this is what we have created. So this is how you can create a table in your database. I hope you guys are with me, right? Is there any doubt so far? How we can create database, how we can create table? Is there any doubt? Okay. Yes, thank you, Ramsar. Thank you, Tarini ma'am. So let's just move ahead. Now, as we have already created our table, if you want to check, if you want to retrieve your table, right? So for that, obviously, which query we use? Select query, right? So if you want to perform your select query, then no need to write the whole select query. Instead, what you can do, you can just keep your mouse over your table. You can see these 3 options are coming, right? So from this 3 option, you just need to click on the last option where the table symbol is there, right? So if you will click on that, automatically the select query will be executed. And you can see the query is mentioned, select star from the database name and the table name. right? And you can see below is the table is also visible. Right now, as we have not inserted any of the data, that is why it is coming as a null, right? So if you want to perform the insert query, so over here, you can directly type the values, right? You can type with the, let's say, I'm from computer department, let's say salary is 50,000, right? Let's say another name is Nithi, right? She is from, let's say, IT department, salary is, let's say, 55,000. Next name, let's say Jay, he is from, let's say, computer department, salary, let's say 60,000, right? Next, let's consider Madhuri. She is from, let's say, EC department, right? Salary is, let's say, 60,000, right? Let's take Vishwa. She is from, let's say, electrical department. Salary is, let's say, 55,000, right? Then next name, let's just add Bharti. She's from, let's say, computer, and salary is, let's say, 70,000. Fine. Whatever the data entry you want to make, all those data entry you can directly type over here, and at the end, you just need to click on apply. Right now, you can see I have not entered any faculty ID because that we have made as a auto increment. Okay. You can click on apply. You can see the insert query automatically comes over here. You can click on apply, finish it. All the data are added. You can see if you will execute it, you can see faculty ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. So this is how you can also insert the data into the table. Yes, Archana ma'am, please remind me to add you in a batch at 3 o'clock. Okay, so at that time after completing the session, I will add you in a batch. Okay, thank you, Ram sir, for your response. Okay, so now let's just see if I want to retrieve the data, then you can write the select query directly over here, right? For performing the different types of select query, the basic select query you can directly do right over here. Otherwise, you can write like select, let's say I just want to fetch faculty name, right? So select faculty name from FDP1 dot faculty. I can mention like that. You can see the query is executed properly, and you can see only the faculty name is coming, right? Also, you can add the you can also add like some conditions whenever you want to fetch the data, like that if you want to select a particular record, right? So let's say select faculty name and faculty department from FTP1 dot faculty, where faculty underscore department is equals to, let's say, CE. Okay, so if you want to apply any condition, so you can also apply the condition. You can see here it is showcasing you the list of the faculties who are having the computer department, right? You can also use over here and or operation, right? You can also add and faculty underscore salary is equals to, let's say, 50,000, right? Then you can select it, then you can execute it. So if both the things are satisfied, then only then the record will be showcased. And instead of and, if you will write or, so either this or either that, So accordingly, it will showcase you the result. You can see, right? So this is how you can add uh, uh, the conditions for retrieving the data. You can also use greater than less than symbol instead of is equals to, right? So this is what you can do. If you want to give, let's say whenever we are retrieving, instead of faculty name, if I want to showcase or display the name as a only name, right? So you can use as keyword as name. Okay, and then if you will run it, so instead of faculty name, it will provide you the names are this, right? But this does not mean that we have changed or updated the column name, right? The column name in our structure will remain the faculty name only, but for showcasing purpose, instead of faculty name, we are showcasing the column name as a name only, right? So this is how you can make the changes. Now let's consider if you want to if you do not remember the whole name of the faculty, but you remember that the name of the faculty starts from, let's say, V. Okay, and if you want to display that, so what you can do, you can write select staff from FDP1 dot faculty, where the faculty underscore name is like. You can use like keyword, is like, then you can mention that's a V and then percentage. That means the starting character you know of the name, right? But how many characters are there later on that you don't know, right? But it starts from V. So it will list out all the names which are starting from V. Okay, so you can see there are two names, Vidya and Vishwa, which are starting from V, right? You can do the reverse thing also. If you want that, you want to display the faculty name which are ending with I. You don't know the start, but which are ending with I. Okay, so you can write it like this also. You can just select it and you can just paste. You can see Vidhi, Nidhi, Madhuri, Bharti, everyone who is and whose name is ending with I, that is showcased, right? Apart from this, if you want to short your data, right? So that sorting also you can do. So for sorting purpose, what you need to do is you just need to write the select query, select star from FDP1 dot faculty, right? In after that, you just need to mention order by, that based on which field, based on which column you want to do the sorting, right? Either you want to do the sorting in a ascending order, either you want to do in a descending order. Both the things also you can do. So first of all, I am saying I want to do the sorting based on faculty salary, right? And by default, it will do the ascending order. Okay, if you will see, it is providing you in the ascending order 50, 55, 60, 70. Right. If you want that it should showcase in a descending order, so at the end you can add DESC. You can add DESC. Okay, you can select this, you can execute this. You can see now sorting is in the descending order 70, 60, 55, 50. Right. So this is how you can also do the sorting in the database. Also, you can perform some of the mathematical operations like sum, addition, average. If you want to see that what is the average salary of the faculties, right? So you can mention that select average faculty salary from FDP1 dot faculty, right? So it will showcase you the average salary. So based on whatever the number of records are there, based on that, it will showcase you the average salary which is provided to the faculty, that is 58,000. Okay. Instead of average, you can also do the total. You can find the sum, right? So you can see the total sum of all the salaries are 3,50,000. Instead of sum, if you want to find out what is the maximum salary, how much we are paying maximum, right? So you can use max keyword and you can execute. So maximum salary is 70,000. You can also find out the minimum salary, right? You can make it as a mean. So it will provide you the minimum salary which we are providing, that is 50,000. Right, so this is how with the help of this mathematical function like max, mean, sum, average, you can be able to perform some mathematical calculations as well, right? Apart from this, let's say if you want to add a new column into your table. Now we have already created a table and later on you remember that you forgot to add one more column into your table. So if you want to change the structure of your table, so in that case, you can use the alter query. So for that, you can mention over here alter table and then the table name, let's say fdp1.faculty. And you can mention add whatever the field you want to add, let's say faculty age. Okay. And then the data type, let's say that is integer, right? So if you will execute this alter query, so you can see it is successful. Now you can run your select query again and you can check your table. This faculty age is added, right? And now if you want to insert the data over here, you can double click and you can enter, let's say 23, 25, 26, 24, 25, 26, right? And you can click on apply. So update query will be automatically executed, right? So alter query is for altering the table structure. Update query is for updating the value of a particular data, right? So this is how you can add any particular column into the table, or if you want to remove it. So for removing, you just need to use alter table, then the table name fdp1 dot faculty, and then you need to mention drop column and then the column name. So column name is, let's say, faculty age. So with the help of this, you can be able to also delete or remove the particular column from the table. You can see it is successfully executed. You can select the query. You can see now the age is removed, right, from the table. So this is how you can be able to perform all this query: insert, update, create, delete, alter, right? All this query you will be able to perform through this. And there are so many options also available. You can do the right click and you can also use this alter table, drop table, truncate table. These things are already there. So instead of writing the particular query for a things, you can also use this particular options to perform a particular operations. So this is all about, you can say, the database, right? I hope you are aware of these things and I have quickly brushed up these concepts for you, right? Is there any doubt in any of the query, whatever we have covered today? Okay, great. Thank you, ma'am. So here I would like to share the attendance link with you guys, right? And after that, I will showcase you how we can do the database connectivity. Right? So far we have covered the basics of databases, the basic queries, right? And then now after taking the attendance, I will let you know that how you can just make the database connection, right? So just give me 2 minutes. I'm just creating a form. Okay, so in the chat box, I have shared the attendance link for the afternoon session. So I request all the faculty members to please mark your presence for the afternoon session. Here I will just wait for the 5 minutes and then we will continue with the session. I request everyone to please mark your presence in this Google form for the afternoon session. In the chat box, I have shared the attendance link. I request everyone to please mark your presence for the afternoon session. We'll wait for another 2 to 3 minutes and then we'll continue with the session. Those who have not marked their presence, I have shared the form link again in the chat box. So I request everyone to please mark your presence for the afternoon session. We'll just wait for another 2 minutes and then we'll continue with the session. Okay, so as majority of you have marked the presence, so now I think we can move ahead with the session. So let me just share my screen again. So now, if you want to do the database connectivity, right? So directly you cannot communicate, right? If let's consider in full stack web development, there is a 3-tier architecture, right? So in a 3-tier architecture, the thing is that directly you cannot be able to communicate with each other. For making the communication, you required one handler. Okay, you require one handler because your server understands some other language, your database understands the query language, your browser understands the HTML language, right? So you are converting your response into the HTML in a same manner. You need to convert your your things into the database level language, the query languages, right? Then only then you will be able to perform, execute the query, and you can be able to fetch the data or update the data or whatever the stuff you want to do, right? So for that, in Java, there is a JDBC driver, right? In Java, we have a JDBC driver, which is required for making this connectivity. Okay, so for that, what we need to do is we need to download the connected jar file where this JDBC driver will be there, right? So for that, you need to search for SQL connector jar. The first site, whatever you will get, that will be the official site. Okay, so that you need to click. It will look like this. Over here, what you need to do is let me just wait for 1 minute because my system is little bit slow today now because so many things are running together, right? So let me just wait for a 1 minute here so that the link will open properly. Yes. So here what you need to do is you need to go to the archives. In the archives, you need to select the operating system. If you will select the operating system, in this you can see there is no such Windows operating system provided. So which system you need to select? You need to select the platform independent. You need to select platform independent, right? Whenever you will click on platform independent, you will get two options. One is a tar file, another is a zip file. So what you need to do? You need to download this zip file, right? So let me just copy this link address and let me provide you. This is the JDBC MySQL connector, right? So this you need to download, this zip file you need to download. And after downloading, what you need to do? You need to extract this file, right? What you need to do? You need to just extract this file. Let me just stop sharing this thing. Let me open the folder. Now let me share my screen again. Right? Okay, I hope my screen is visible, right? You can see over here, I have already downloaded this MySQL connector Java jar file, right? What you need to do, you just need to extract this file. Whenever you will extract this type of folder, you will get. After that, what you need to do, you need to open this folder. And by opening this folder, you will get one executable jar file within that folder. MySQL connector Java 8.0.21, which is the executable jar file. This jar file you need to select. This jar file you need to select. You need to copy this file and then you need to go to the Apache Tomcat servers folder. Right? In that you need to go to the library folder where all the jar files will be there. So at this location, you need to paste your SQL jar file, which is you have just copied. In my case, I have already pasted it, MySQL connector Java 8.0.21, right? So because of this, automatically your JDBC driver information and classes will be there. So we can be able to directly call these classes and we can be able to make the database connectivity. Okay, so the setup we have done. Now let's see how we can do the programming. So we were already discussing regarding the registration module, right? So let's just see first of all the registration part, that in the registration module, what we will do, we will just whatever the data, name and the password, whatever these fields are filled up, right? That we will try to make the entry into the database. That is the name and password. Right? We have already created our registration.html page, right? This page is already ready with us. Now the another thing which you need to do, first of all, you need to create this table. into your database, into your MySQL. Okay, because if table will be there, then and only then this values we will be able to insert. Otherwise, we will not be able to insert it. Okay, so in my case, I have already created the table. Where I have created, I think I close my MySQL as well. Let me open MySQL Workbench again. Yes. So here you can see I have already created test2, right? This test2 is my database name. In the tables, I have created the registration table. Right? If you will click on the registration, you can see over here, two fields are already created, faculty name and the password. Right? So my table is already ready with us. Okay. So my table is ready in my MySQL, and now we just need to do the coding in our Eclipse IDE. Okay, so what type of code we need to do? So first of all, we require registration.html page, right? So we are already in registration.html page. We already have created this page. My system is hanging a bit. Just wait for 2 minutes. Yes. Now you can see we are in the registration page, right? Where we are already saying that if we will be on a registration, we need to go to the login. Instead of login, we can ask to go for, we can create another page. Let's say one more servlet page we are creating. New. Servlet. Let's say I'm giving name as register. Click on next. Click on next. We'll use to post method. Click on finish. Okay. In register.html, instead of redirecting on a login page, let's just redirect on a register page. Right? Okay, let's just save this. For unique identification, we have used the name as nm and pass. Okay, now go to the register.java file. In that, let's just add the code as per our requirement. So first of all, what we need to write over here. So I will quickly write response, what type of response we will give. Text HTML. Right? This you are already aware of. I'm just repeating the steps. Right? After that, we will use print writer. Out is equals to response dot get writer. Here we will just import this print writer class. These two things we have done. Now let's just take a string. Let's say name is equals to request dot get parameter. That means whatever the values are entered by the user nm that we are going to take and store in a name. Similarly, we will use password request dot get parameter. Let's say pass. Right, we have stored the things in a two variables. Now we will try to make the database connectivity, and after try we need to try and catch the exception E. Exception. Right, so in a try we will try to do the database connectivity. So for doing the database connectivity, first of all you need to mention regarding the particular JDBC connector. So class.phone name is the method. So the default driver which we are going to use, that is the com.mysql.jdbc.driver, where D is in a capital. So this is the driver name which you need to pass over here in the name of a driver. Okay, second thing, now we will try to make the connection. So for making the connection, we will use the connection class, and con is the object name. We will call the driver manager for it, and we'll call the method get connection. In the get connection, we need to pass three things. First is with which database we want to make the connectivity. Second is the username, and third is the password. So here with which we want to make the database connectivity. So that is with the help of JDBC driver, we want to make connectivity with MySQL. In that, my instance is localhost, which runs on 3306 port number, and my database name is test2. Right? This is the first thing. Second is my username. So default username is my root, and the password for this username is admin. These three things we need to pass over here. Right. So this is our connection string. This connection class we just need to import. So I will just import it. Okay. Now, as our connection is made, now it is trying to execute the query. So for executing the query, we required prepared statement. Over here, we cannot directly write the query. For that, we need to prepare the statement. So we will call the prepare statement class, and we'll create the object PS. With the help of the con object, we will call the prepare statement. And in this prepare statement, we will pass our SQL query. So what we want to do, as this is the registration, so we want to insert the data into our table. So here the query will be insert into, what is the table name? Table name is, I think, register, right? What was the table name? Registration. Registration is the table name. So here insert into registration, right? And then we need to say values. How many values are there? There are two values. So 2 times question mark you need to pass, because this values we need to pass from the whatever the value inserted by the client, right? So we will pass 2 question marks because there are 2 fields, right? So first question mark will represent the first field, second question mark will represent the second field, right? So how we can pass the value using this PS, right? Let me first of all import this prepared statement. With the help of PS dot set string, we can set the first field, and the first field is nothing else but name, right? And we can set PS dot set string. The second field is password, right? So for the first question mark, we have set name. For the second question mark, we have set password, right? So this is the thing we have done. But after writing this does not mean that our query is going to be executed. We need to execute the query. We need to run the query. How we can run this? For that, we need to mention PS dot execute update. We need to call execute update. If we will call this execute update, then and only then your query is going to be executed. But whether it is successfully done or not, for checking that, we need to store this value in any integer variable I, let's say, and we'll check if I is greater than 0. Then we will simply print that out dot print, we will say successful, right? And then it's done. And in exception, let's just print system dot out dot println. We will print the exception. We can save this, and let's just make the entry of this register.java in a web.xml file, right? So I will just copy this servlet and we'll paste this servlet. Instead of welcome, we'll just make it as a register. Over here, we'll make it as a register. And in a servlet mapping, copy this, paste this. Instead of validate, make it as a register. Make it as a register. Let's just save this. Okay, so all our stuff is ready. Let's just click over here. Run on server. Click on the server, click on the next, click on the finish, start over. Okay, so registration module is there. You can enter the name. Let's say I'm adding Vishwa, entering the password 1234. You will click on a register. You can see it is showcasing successful. That means database connectivity has been done and your data is entered into the table successfully. So to check that, let's just open our table. Let's just pass the select query. You can see select star from test2.registration. At the end, you can see the details are entered Vishwa 1234. That means whatever the data are entered by the user in the registration module, The same is captured over here in this table. So this is how you can make the database connectivity. Right? I hope this particular hands-on is clear to you, right? Whatever the steps we have followed. Is there any doubt in this? Repeat. Which particular step you want to repeat, Sushma ma'am? Should I showcase you the database connectivity part or? Yes, okay, sure. So basically for writing the connectivity code in this register.java, you can see what we need to do is first thing, initially what we are doing, we are just making the, see, whenever we want to do the database connectivity, in database connectivity, this is your server, this is your database, right? So we need to make over here the connection. Then we can fetch the data or insert the data into the table. Okay, but for this purpose, we required one driver who can make the connection, who can understand the server's language and who can understand the database language. For that purpose, we have JDBC driver, right? So what we need to do, first of all, we need to inform that which driver we are utilizing, which class, which driver class we are utilizing. The second step, we need to mention that the connection, with which database we want to do the connection. For informing that, we need to pass three things: the database name, the username, and the password, right? Once that is done, then we can execute the query, right? So how we can say the driver class? So for that, the statement which you need to write, that is the class.4name. This will be the default one. Just you need to write by default because we are utilizing the JDBC driver. So this is the class name for the JDBC driver. com.mysql.jdbc.driver, where D is capital. And whenever we are dealing with the database connectivity, we need to always write the things in a try and catch. If you will remove this try, then you will get the error. Okay, so whenever you work with the database part, you need to always use try and catch statement. Okay, now here we have mentioned our driver. So second is we want to make the connection with our database. How we can make the connection? So this connection is the class. Okay, and for this interface, we are creating an object of that connection class, and that is the con object. Okay, and with the help of that, we are calling our driver manager, right? Which will, through that, we can call the get connection method. And with whom we want to get the connection? We want to get the connection with this particular database. So here for mentioning the database, we need to mention the whole path, that through the JDBC driver within MySQL, my instance name is localhost, port number is 3306, and the database name is test2. With this, I want to make the database connectivity. And my username is a root and password is admin. Okay, by default, the username will be root only. You need to just change your password based on your password. Okay. After that, this will establish the connection. Once the connection is established, now you need to execute the query. But as I said, server don't understand database language. Database don't understand server's language. So as we are working with the servlet, so servlet is the one who is responsible for converting the query, whatever the query is there, into the data to understand the database, right? Which can be understandable by the database. So that can be done with the help of the prepared statement. This is the class which is mainly used to convert your program into the query, the SQL statements, right? So PS is the object for that. And with this connection, whatever the connection we have created over here, with this connection, I want to execute the SQL statement. Which SQL statement? Insert into the table. Okay, so insert into registration is my table name. And how many values I want to insert? As my table contains only 2 fields, I have passed 2 question marks over here. That depends on the number of fields you are having in your table, right? Why question mark? Because I want to insert the data which is entered by the user. So we need to pass the value into this question mark. How we can pass? With the help of set string. So the first question mark, I want to pass name. For the second question mark, I want to pass the password, right? This is things we have just mentioned, but we need to execute this. And for executing, we need to call execute update method. Okay, this method is used to throw the SQL statement. And if there will be any exception, so that is going to be showcased to us, right? And if it is performed successfully, so we are saying that print successful. Otherwise, throw the exception in a catch. So this is how we have made the database connectivity. I hope it is clear now, right? Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.